Welcome back to Geelong in the 2020 Worlds. We're postponed again for the men and women, so we have an opportunity to talk about big breeze sailing. And we brought with us some French FX sailors, Julie Bossard and Aude Compan, and Willie McBride, men's 49er coach, right?
Women's
FX coach.
FX coach.
There we go.
That's right.
Sorry, from the United States. I had a 50-50 shot at that.
Close.
So the topic that we're talking about now is the transition and how people, both on the coaching side and the sailor side, on the practical side, how they transition their tactics and strategy as the breeze picks up. Today's a perfect day to talk about that. It's blowing about 25, and we're just trying to figure out if sailors and coaches approach things differently at a certain wind range. You know, I don't know any of these sailors that just are dreaming about just getting around the course in this stuff, but there probably is a little change in terms of their strategy. So, Willie, tell me a little bit about the way your mind changes or your thought changes in terms of coaching when the breeze gets up in the 25 knot range, kind of hairy range.
Yeah, totally. So I think like one of the biggest things that happens immediately when it gets windy is everybody's, really pumped up and you transition from having to kind of get everybody psyched up to having to kind of hold everybody back a little bit and really, think about the racing things, not just make it 100% a boat speed race, although to a large extent it is. I think that every maneuver is a lot more it's a lot more of an investment almost, because to do a maneuver, A, costs you a lot of boat lengths, and B, is an opportunity to mess it up and capsize.
Less margin for error.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I think it's so important in that stuff. You really want to go into the race with a solid game plan that's going to help you kind of minimize maneuvers and know where on the course you have to make the important decisions. And so one of the things we talk a lot about is where those decision points are.
Right. Can you give us an example?
Yeah, totally. So I think
like an obvious one.
Yeah. The first decision on the course is one of the most important, and I think that's especially out here in Geelong where it's super shifty. You have to get lifted early, and that first tack off the line is going to be really important. And so, likely you're doing either 2 tacks or you're doing 4 tacks, and highly likely that the leaders are doing 2 tacks.
Right. Okay.
So where you take that first tack is going to be super, super important. And it's going to be a lot about knowing your numbers and knowing whether you're lifted or headed on that first beat, and making sure that you make the first part of the beat count as much as possible.
So you almost have like fewer shots at getting that right.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to make sure that you nail it on the first one.
And how about off the wind? Is there any kind of conservative approach, or you can't really be conservative because someone else is pushing so hard?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard to be conservative, especially from a standpoint that, if you get slow and if you kind of try to hold back, it's when you get nervous and when you slow down that the boat gets unstable and that you stop kind of doing what you've practiced. And so, for these guys, so much of it is having done it so many times that, they're confident that they can just go out and do what they practiced and execute it well.
Awesome. So along those lines, on the practical side for the sailors, if you went out today, how would you talk, or how would you approach it differently? What would you do differently? Do you talk about it before you go out? A different strategy for a big breeze?
Yes, we speak about strategies, and we said, okay, because it's so windy, we try to do some simple things. The ley line will be really important, because you can be really under ley line or over ley line. So this is 2 important things, and we said, okay, it will be a race against us. We don't care about the other. We just need to focus on us, and to say that we just be with the boat and try to make her finish the race. And
that's an excellent point, actually. I didn't think about it that way. A lot of times you're considering the other boats a tremendous amount in a race, but it's almost like considering the race course in absence of other boats. You know what I mean? Like, I need to, generally, like you said, stay on, the lifted tack first, obviously these basics, but also like just focus on getting to the ley line properly, not screwing that up, but almost not thinking about the fleet management at the moment.
I think we are thinking about the best side of the race course, if it's right or left. And after we said, okay, we won't do so many tacks or jibe because, like you said, more you do, more you can capsize. So
right.
you said, I want to do some simple things and try to go as fast as possible. And after it's more simple, but it's more difficult because you have the pressure of the wind and.
Right.
And the other, yes, you play with them, but not as much as with less wind.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And on the cruise side of things,
Yeah.
Like what Willie said, you can't get too nervous because it prevents you access to what you've been practicing, what you're able to do.
Yeah.
But there's also a component of just getting psyched up for it too. What's your approach as a crew? Do you think any differently when it's really windy?
Well, it's a very cardio boat, you know.
What kind of boat?
Cardio.
Cardio workout?
Cardio workout, yes. You know, it's a very...
Cardio.
Cardio, sorry.
Casual?
Not very.
Today's not
and
casual.
Cardio, yeah.
So we don't have the time to think, you know. You just have to do the things and to be focused on the boat speed and any maneuvers.
Yeah.
So we just have to be in front of.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that.
And also, I think something is different. It's also we have to speak louder for sure because of the winds. We wear the helmets because we are in a fighting mode, and after also it's between the races because of very hard condition. We have to take some rest. And to be aware, to be under the line, and to be ready for the second or third race, and to keep some rest on the coach boat and drink also a lot. And
yeah, it seems like you almost have to be a little bit more on top of even just hanging out.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
And planning it out.
I think it's almost, I think what you said, it's kind of more of a reaction game in this stuff where you don't really have time to think. You don't have time to. You're working so hard. You're like, okay, and so you already have to know, like, okay, if this happens, what do we do?
Right.
And so I think that especially the experienced teams often have an edge in this stuff because you've seen the scenarios play out so many times, and so you know what to do. If you round the leeward mark and there's a couple boats around and you're in a certain phase, there's only so many moves.
Now I know that you two in the past, we'll start to wrap this up, and you guys gals have done really well at some of the at a world, like maybe one of your best World Cup finishes was in Big Breeze.
Yes.
In Hiroshima, yes, and also in Marseille.
Yes.
You guys are the only ones who finished that race in Hiroshima,
Almost.
right?
There were only 5 boats, I think, in Hiroshima, yes.
And was it the same approach that you're talking about, keeping some of these things simple?
Yes, and we said also that before doing a maneuver, we want to be really fast because if, like you say, you are not so fast, the boat is not doing the good thing, and you have to be full speed before doing a maneuver.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes really hard because of the wave or the wind. But it's something that we said, okay, we want to jibe or we want to tack. So focus on speed, and when we say go, we just jump on the other side. And
Nice. Now we'll end on this. I wanted to just ask you two a little bit about yourselves. How long have you been a team?
Since January 2017.
2017.
Yes.
Okay, so post.
3 years.
Yeah. Awesome. And are both of you like lifelong sailors since you were little kids in France?
Yes. Yes. We do lots of. We live in a city near the sea, both of us. Me on the north and she on the south.
Okay.
And we have.
Where is that?
Near Brest.
Near Brest. Yeah.
And me near Montpellier.
Okay. Yeah, on the Med. Yeah. So awesome.
And we sail at school, and after we do some.
Together, you sailed at school?
There is some school sailing school class.
Like an academy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool.
So it was.
But
so good.
we didn't really know each other before the FX. Yes. We used to sail in different crew in FX at first, and then we meet January.
But I'm assuming are you just racers, or do you do recreational sailing, or when you were a lot younger, or did you always race? You know, when you're kids.
When I start, you don't really know if you want to do some races
Okay.
or for my case.
Yeah.
So I just did it because my brother used to sail also, and I would like to do the same as him.
Yeah.
And after, okay, it's nice, I can continue. And I
Nice.
had a choice to do between dance and this, and I prefer to focus on sailing.
And is that a similar pathway for you, Julie?
My parents have a boat also, so I do some cruising with their boat.
Oh, cruising. Nice.
But only for holidays. And
Yeah,
after, when I begin optimist, I begin a competition, and I said, okay, I love it, so I will continue.
Well, I know I met you through match racing.
Yeah, exactly.
Women's match racing worlds.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see you sticking with the Olympic campaign.
Yeah.
And then Willie, you're a coach.
Yep.
But were you a campaigner?
Briefly and locally. Yeah.
That's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
And then as a kid?
I grew up sailing seashells, which is like a plywood boat that
Where?
people build in their backyards.
In
and,
America?
Yep. In Santa Barbara, it was kind of a kit boat, and I think my first boat, my parents put on top of the car and drove home and accidentally forgot they had it on top of the car and wedged it into the garage and had to let the air out of the tires in order to get it out. So my first boat work memory was putting this plywood boat back together. And,
The seashell.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned to sail.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. I think we found a new nickname for you.
Oh boy.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge
Thank you.
with everyone and your backstory. and that's it for now. The men are going to try to go out, but the FX women and the NACRA won't be out until tomorrow. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.